Yes, what do you need? I suppose. What is it? What is new? This Ulfric Stormcloak character is an interesting one. A bit full of himself, even for a Nord, but I don't suppose I can blame him. He does have the ways of the voice quite firmly within his grasp after all, and shouted Skyrim's previous High King to death with it, if you didn't know. I don't know what right that gives him to be the new High King, though. If knowing a few shouts is all it takes. Perhaps they should make me the High King of Skyrim instead, yes? What, you see a problem with the Khajiit ruling over the nodes of Skyrim? Not me. Turnabout, as they say, is fair play. Only Khajiit allowed in cities. Every other race must peddle from the fringes of society. And books for everyone. Literacy will be mandatory. There will be a monthly quota of books read per person, and anyone who does not want to read will feel my wrath. The people would love me, I am sure of it.
I've been looking for you.
Warm sands, my mate. Every book has its merits, if you look at it the right way. I'm up for another chat about the Dance and Fire, if you're game, yes? Alright then, which book should we discuss? Book 6. The exciting part of the adventure is over now that Scotty has made it into Sylvanar and found his comrade Judas. The two discuss business, Scotty slipping quite readily back into his role as a trader. How shall we secure this contract with the Sylvanar, yes? Luckily for Scotty, when he and Judas attempt to visit the Sylvanar the next day, Scotty is the only one allowed in to see him. Through some surprisingly non-extravagant dialogues, Scotty secures the contract and arranges for travel back to Cyrodiil the next morning. Judas is stunned, having been present in Sylvanar for weeks without being admitted entrance to speak with the Sylvanar. Scotty, on the other hand, can't get past how short the Sylvanar is. All that remains now is for him to return to Cyrodiil and finalize the deal. But that will have to wait for another day, and another book. Do you ever tire of the rain? I find it so very depressing, and it likely does not help matters that the smell of wet fur offends my nose. I suppose. What is it? What is new? One of the things I have stumbled across in reading Skyrim's many books is a curious naming convention that is used quite frequently. It often seems that if a person or object's name appears to be nonsense, it is because the author took one or more words and turned them backwards. From the Beggar King series about a man named Elsaf Errol, to a rather grisly book called Servant of Thieves starring a thief named Indik. The most curious thing about this is that these books seem to originate in different eras of history, and in different provinces of Tamriel. Generally speaking, you see certain styles of writing dominate a certain time and place, and then those conventions disappear. Not so here. Perhaps it is an author's quick attempt to be clever, or to make the reader feel smart for discovering the truth. Or perhaps it is just lazy writing. Warm sands, my mate. Every book has its merits, if you look at it the right way. As I may have told you, I am quite a fan of the Dwemer. In my travels, I've read quite a few books on them. Their culture, their history, their architecture, and the like. One of the best that I've read is titled Dwemer Inquiries. A 3-volume set of well-researched information that examines Dwemer society in a way no other publications I've seen have. Given that the Dwemer took so much of their culture with them when they disappeared, Dwemer Inquiries takes an archaeological approach, examining the layout and construction of Dwemer cities as a means of tracking their migrations and determining the purpose of various structures. One thing I had never thought about the author mentions the frequent occurrence of what he calls deep venues in Dwemer cities, large caverns that serve as civic centers, meeting areas where buildings, utilities, and other structures are most concentrated. Yes, and some of these deep venues are even large enough to contain their own systems of roadways. Even more exciting than that, the author makes the case that the Dwemer got better and better at concealing their cities underground over the years. Meaning, it is possible that there exist entire undiscovered dwarven cities all across Tamriel, still sealed away after all these years. Cool? I don't think you understand the significance of this assertion. It means there are cities out there that still contain pristine artifacts. And there may be cities so isolated that the Dwemer continue on within their walls, yet untouched by the malady that ended the rest of the race. My head swims at the thought. I suppose. What is it? The bards at the college knew quite a few tales that they were more than happy to regale me with while I was there. Many stories I knew, and many were quite fantastical. But one story rose above all others, and it centered on an eccentric Khajiit with blue fur. And a true story too, if you believe the bards. I think they hit the skooma a bit too much in their spare time, personally. How absurd, blue fur. Next they'll tell me there are talking dogs in Skyrim as well. You are taking us somewhere warm, yes? I suppose. What? I was a bit disappointed by the Bard's College when I first arrived in Solitude. From the outside, it looked so big and grand, but once I got in... I don't know what I was expecting, but you hear the word college, you expect more than just a big room with a few classes on the second floor. Thankfully, the on-campus literature collection was much more impressive. Let me put it to you this way. The headmaster and his associates slept in their lavish chambers, which, by the way, could have been used for classes. Where did I sleep? I slept with the staff and other lowly students in a communal bedroom in a musty basement. A basement which doubled as a kitchen and tripled as an occasional latrine. I could not even bring a candle to bed to read for fear of waking others. I could not sleep for the caustic scent stung at my nose. I could not ascend the stairs to the meager accommodations above because of etiquette. A simple separated dormitory for students would have been sufficient for me, but again, the college was deficient in everything but its books. I suppose if nothing else, it tested just how truly devoted I was to learning Skyrim's history, the way a larger college probably would not. Yes, what is it? Every book has its merit. I'm up for another chat about the Dance and Fire, if you're game. Alright then, which book should we discuss? The final book. Scotty has gotten the Sylvanar to agree to the contract to rebuild Valenwood in the wake of the Bosmer's war with the Khajiit. All that remains is to return to Cyrodiil and get the trading company to pick up the contract and send supplies. He leaves the next morning. Jorah stays behind as the Imperial representative, claiming to have been appointed to the position of Undrape by the Sylvanar. Back in Cyrodiil, a bidding war occurs between two trading companies, Atreus and Vanek. Much time passes, with no aid sent to the Bosmer. Scotty, for his part, seems happy just to be back in civilized society. But in the meantime, the Bosmer lose much ground in their war. Eventually, Vanek wins the bid, and a grand banquet is held to celebrate the contract. Scotty notices a familiar scent at the banquet. A cut of meat sent from the Sylvanar himself that the guests are fawning over. Delectable, marbled to perfection. What did you say it's called? Unthrapa. Scotty, making a horrible realization, vomits uncontrollably. And that is how the saga ends. I know. Many of these stories seem to end with a bit of a twist, and I had this sense of foreboding reading this final book, but what a twist it was. Caught me a bit off guard. The elves take their green pact very seriously, don't they? Enough to keep me out of Valenwood, yes?